You're watching Camnet TV, not just another channel, and welcome to our news. The headlines. Government U-turns on 750 kwacha COVID-19 fine. President Edgar Lungu mourns Chief Mushima Mubambe Luputa the 14th. Bad airport road network in Lusaka ikes motorists. In international news, Sudanese protest a year after power sharing deal with army. And in sports news, Barcelona sack manager after Bayern thrashing. For the details, to join me shortly after this break.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444-726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
With the details, my name is Liseli Kanyanga. President Edgar Lungu is saddened by the death of Chief Mushima Mubambe Luputa, the 14th of the Kaonde people in Mufumbwe district, who died on the 8th of August 2020. President Lungu, who conveyed the message through the Water Development Minister, Dr. Jonas Chanda, has wished the royal family God's comfort and strength. Dr. Chanda, who is touring water supply and sanitation projects in Northwestern Province, said this when he called on the sitting in Chief Mushima Mubambe Luputa, the 15th at his palace in Mufumbwe district. Dr. Chanda said the head of state wants the people of Mufumbwe not to be left behind in any developmental projects. He said this is evidenced by government's implementing of the 12 million kwacha water supply project in the district, which will benefit close to 3,600 people. Dr. Chanda said the project, which is nearly completed, is expected to be commissioned soon.
When the president heard about the funeral of our late chief, he was very saddened, and he passes his condolences that God may strengthen and comfort you as the royal family. Although we have come to see the water project in Mufumbwe because the president wants the people of Mufumbwe to have clean and water services to the people, we have seen it fit. The president says we pass through here to pass our message of condolences, so that the royal family can be guided by God, even in the next steps that will follow.
And sitting in Chief Mushima Mubambe Luputa, the 15th, has expressed gratitude for the love and respect that government has shown during the period of mourning. The chief also called on government to look into other pressing matters affecting the people. This is contained in a video statement issued to Camnet TV by Ministry of Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection Public Relations Officer Amos Zulu.
As His Royal Highness of this place here, I want to express on behalf of the entire chiefdom our heartfelt gratitude for the concern, love and respect that we have for this kingdom. Truly speaking, PF has done something that, especially during the period of mourning, it's been very, very consistent. This is the only way that you can promote the party, PF, alongside the top leadership, which is President Edgar Chagwa. I know the president himself cannot be all over, no. He's got his own messengers, he's got his own armies, he's got his own people that he can send. For example, we've got Dr. Jonas Chanda, who is already representing the party, which is a job well done. On behalf of my subjects, we are deeply indebted by this government. And we want to tell you that we are supporting you. Normally and usually it is the duty of any chief to support, to go by, to go alongside the sitting government.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ziambo, has charged that productivity still remains a huge challenge for small-scale farmers countrywide. Mr. Ziambo says this is a result of poor agriculture mechanization, which can improve the welfare of small-scale farmers. He says agriculture plays a key role in supporting industries by the production of raw materials and generating employment, especially in rural areas, hence the need to ensure that small-scale farmers are capacitated in this area. The PS was speaking during the official opening of the University of Zambia 3rd Agriculture Machinery Training in Zambia 2020 workshop in partnership with Jiangsu University of China. We have more in this report.
Agriculture is an underrated resource by many and often described as a preserve for people that have little or nothing much to do in the world of technocrats. Government has been pushing the agenda of people adopting agriculture as a mainstay of the country away from the usual copper dependency. In this regard, government has placed better premium year in, year out on agricultural matters by supporting programs such as the Farmer Input Support Program, among other projects to enhance agriculture. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sunguwayo Zwambo, has observed on why agriculture is slowly growing in the country, especially among the small-scale farmers.
In Zambia, agriculture plays a key role of supporting industries by the production of the required raw materials, producing exportable agricultural goods, generating employment, particularly in rural areas, as well as providing foodstuffs essential for the sustenance of acceptable nutrition standards and levels. The ministry has witnessed numerous mutually beneficial bilateral agreements being signed between China and Zambia. These agreements have positively shaped the social, cultural.
These observations were made during the official opening of the University of Zambia's 3rd Agricultural Machinery Training in Zambia 2020 workshop in partnership with Jiangsu University of China.
Jiangsu University initiative under the Belt and the Road Joint Research Center at the University of Zambia in partnership with the School of Agriculture and Engineering at the University of Zambia brings to Zambia the opportunities for multinational and multi-sectorial global networking. This project makes it possible for China's government vision of a community of shared future for mankind to be actualized through enhanced regional and global connectivity for a brighter future of mankind. I'm therefore delighted that the University of Zambia, through the Belt and Road Initiative, is preparing for effective access.
And speaking on behalf of the students, one of the students that are benefiting spoke on behalf of others.
A total of 500 students that have been selected to the mechanical maintenance and the processing technology of agricultural product courses and have received scholarships from Jiangsu University to study on these courses for free. Guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, the President of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and the government of the Republic of Zambia have been working tirelessly to create jobs for youths and empower the youths for economic development and poverty reduction. The efforts of the President and the Zambian government are commendable.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Center for Trade Policy and Development has advised the Bank of Zambia to either reduce or maintain the monetary policy, which currently stands at 9.25%. The monetary policy is a central bank's action and communications that manages the money supply, including credit, cash, checks, and money markets, expected to be announced this Wednesday. CTPD researcher Public Finance Mata Wakumelo says reducing or maintaining the monetary policy supplement effects to curb the effects of COVID-19 on the economy being put forth by government through the central bank. Mr. Wakumelo explains that inflation has continued to increase, rising the 14% in March to 15.8% in July, meaning that economic activities that have continued to slow down on account of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic. In this regard, CTPD has observed that the negative economic outlook on which basis the MPC lowered the monetary policy in its last sitting has not registered any improvement in the period under review.
As the Bank of Zambia Monetary Policy Committee sets to announce its monetary policy decision this coming Wednesday, we as the Center for Trade Policy and Development expect the committee to take a more relaxed stance by maintaining the policy rate at 9.25% or even lower if possible. We are cognizant of the fact that inflation has been on the rise, increasing to 15.8% in July as compared to 14.0% in March. But it is our considered view that the gloomy picture of the broader situation of the negative macroeconomic outlook on which basis the committee had cut the policy rate by 125 basis points at its last sitting in May has not registered any vivid improvement on over the review period. This is in light of the fact that we have continued to experience liquidity constraints in the financial markets. More so, we have also continued to experience supply constraints as a result of distortions in the supply chains on account of disruptions in business operations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is also brought about by the high energy prices in terms of the prices of fuel as well as electricity tariffs, of course exacerbated by the pass-through from the effects of the sustained depreciation in the exchange rate. And so
the Zambia Revenue Authority, ZRA, has launched a WhatsApp tax payment system aimed at supporting the already existing payment platforms built specifically to change the landscape of e-payment systems. Acting Commissioner General Sydney Chivabuka is confident that the platform will help taxpayers in the informal sector to easily come on board and contribute to the tax basket. The tax authority has also signed a memorandum of understanding with two other financial institutions aimed at enhancing the collection of tax at people's convenience. We have more in this report.
In its quest to cater for the needs of the taxpayers, especially in the digital space, Zambia Revenue Authority has launched a WhatsApp tax payment platform known as Tax on WhatsApp. The platform, which has been built with the realization that people use WhatsApp application at all times and to ease the mode of doing business, can be used at the convenience of the client. Acting Commissioner General Sydney Chivabuka says the platform will add value to business processes by capturing the untaxed sector who may not remit due to inconveniences involved in the process. Taxpayers can use WhatsApp to pay any domestic tax through their mobile wallet. The launch of the platform also saw the signing of an agreement with some financial institutions and mobile network providers who will help in the successful implementation of the platform.
This is the first ever for Zambia, and we are proud as an authority to lead the way in WhatsApp payments. We are also proud to be a business leader in innovation for this country. As you may be aware, this year we launched the new tax online system, which is the largest IT solution ever built in Zambia, by Zambians for the Zambian market. The benefits of online payments cannot be overemphasized, especially this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, where physical money can be a medium for transmitting the disease. We therefore encourage all taxpayers to file in the returns online before the due dates and submit your declarations to customs prior to arrival of your goods at the border, and ensure that all payments are made electronically. Please remember our tagline, my tax, your tax, our destiny.
And Seagate Managing Director Kelvin Chikomo says the partnership is significant in enhancing tax payment.
In addition to our WhatsApp channel, customers will be able to pay for taxes through 503's banking, mobile banking partners and mobile money partners, as well as 503's 6,000 strong agents across Zambia. Without tax, my last trip to Solwezi could probably have been longer with more punctures. We will not be looking forward to ending load shedding. Our airports will be failing to compete, and we will not have affordable healthcare. Tax helps us grow our beautiful Zambia, and it takes all of us to contribute. Tax isn't for the wealthy, nor is it for those in corporate jobs.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Government has restrained all police officers from collecting fines or arresting citizens failing to adhere to health guidelines as instructed by the head of state, President Lungu. Speaking at the daily COVID-19 update at the Ministry of Health, Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampiongo says the police should enforce the health guidelines within the law and not beyond. The minister has since directed all police commissioners to monitor the enforcement of the statutory instrument number 22 within the framework of the law. He says the role of the police, like any other citizen, is to sensitize the public on COVID-19 and not with force. Meanwhile, Mr. Kampiongo has reminded the public to take care of their health without being forced to. We have more in this report.
The 750 kwacha fine that brought controversy the whole lot of last week has been reversed as government has cited some abuse among law enforcement officers. Various stakeholders called on government to reverse this decision, while others welcomed it. It was until today that anyone found not wearing a mask be fined 750 kwacha or imprisoned for a period of 6 months. Much to the delight of many people, Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampiongo has reversed this decision, urging the public to observe the health guidelines and the police to enforce the guidelines within the law.
Police command is directing all the police commissioners to monitor the implementation of the presidential directives and enforcement of this SI 22 in their respective provinces, and ensure that the enforcement is carried out within the framework of the law. Officers are hereby restrained from arresting and charging fines to members of the public not wearing masks, but instead they should be able to warn and sensitize violators to minimize the risk of the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so the role of police is to, like any other stakeholder, sensitize people and make them comply. Only when they feel it's necessary should they affect arrests, which arrests must be also taken to court.
Minister of Health Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, who was in the company of Home Affairs Minister, also urged members of the public to strictly adhere to these set health guidelines. Only then can the pandemic be eliminated. The minister also gave the status of the COVID-19 statistics in the last 24 hours and cumulatively.
In the last 24 hours, Zambia recorded 142 cases of COVID-19 out of 794 tests done. And therefore this brings the number of cumulative cases to 9,981 cases, just short of the 10,000 mark. Currently, we have 23 patients that are admitted to Levy Isolation Center, and 38 of these are actually on oxygen. Out of these, 8 are in intensive care unit, and this again shows that the sicker patients that we are receiving are on the increase. Countrymen and women, the number of deaths still stands at 264, as we did not report any deaths in the last 24 hours. We have discharged 201 patients, and therefore the recoveries now are at 8,776 cases.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Transport and Communications Minister Mutotwe Kafwaya is on the Copper Belt to interact with stakeholders in the transport sector, among them bus drivers and bus owners. Speaking when he paid a courtesy call on the Copper Belt Province Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe, Mr. Kafwaya says bus drivers are important stakeholders of his ministry, especially now when the country is battling with the COVID-19 pandemic. He explains that the purpose of the Copper Belt tour is to also ensure that bus drivers are engaged on the importance of observing the COVID-19 health guidelines, owing to the fact that they deal with the general public at all times. He is hopeful that the tour will yield success. We have more in this report.
Bus and taxi drivers are key stakeholders under the Ministry of Transport, especially now when the country is hit by the COVID-19, among other threats. Transport Minister Mutotwe Kafwaya is on the Copper Belt to see how best he can engage and ensure the safety of the people. Copper Belt is second in the COVID-19 cases, with Lusaka being first, making more important for the drivers to be engaged on making sure that they supplement government's effort in the fight against COVID-19. The minister paid a courtesy call on Copper Belt Minister Bright Nundwe.
Our focus is interaction, because those are stakeholders within our portfolio ministry, and we have to constantly engage them to hear their the issues they are facing. These are times of COVID. These are times that are highly charged. That are politically charged. So we do have a situation where all issues need to be discussed. We need to sensitize them on COVID. We need to request all these people to stay away from politicizing their work, because obviously that impacts negatively on service delivery, because we may have a situation where some people begin to take, political skillness, and that becomes a problem. So it's sensitization, it's interaction, with understanding each other to just make sure that we stay the course. We stay the course in this.
And Copper Belt Minister Bright Nundwe says the call by the minister is timely.
We are still number 2 to Lusaka, which is very unfortunate. I think the key word is that to some extent we have relaxed as a public, which is not supposed to be the case. The buses, the taxis, or the truckers are a very critical component for the economy of this country. And Honorable Minister, you have done well to take a step to keep on interacting with them. They feel part of the process for the economy of this country to swell. The airport that you are going to see was supposed to be surrendered to government within this year, in December. But because of COVID-19 or coronavirus, this facility is...
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
We now take our first set of commercials. Do stay tuned as we have more interesting stories lined up for you.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not pure glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. A good road network enhances productivity in all sectors as it reduces time people spend on the road. While some roads are being constructed and some already existing roads maintained, others have remained in a deplorable state for quite some time. One such a road is Airport Road in Osaka, where motorists have bemoaned its poor state. Speaking to Camnet TV News, the motorists are calling on government to urgently look into the matter. Meanwhile, Road Development Agency Corporate Communications Manager Masuzi Njovu says plans are underway to rehabilitate the road. We have more in this report.
This is the first impression a visitor experiences after leaving Kenneth Kaunda International Airport while proceeding to different destinations. This is Airport Road, and it has been in this state for as long as one can remember. In order to escape the potholes, motorists are forced to drive around them or reduce speed as a way of negotiating with them.
The challenges that we have, we are experiencing the tail ends, the ball joints, so we need a good road.
I think it should be one road that should be prioritized. We should be worked on here. I think it doesn't even tend to go.
The patriotic citizens have expressed their deep concern as they have since called on the Road Development Agency RDA to work on this deteriorating road. Reacting to the concerns, RDA Corporate Communications Manager Masuzi Njovu says the maintenance of the road is underway as it has already been earmarked. Mr. Njovu says the rehabilitation of the road is part of the L400 projects and will be attended to as soon as the project is funded.
We are going to do a full rehabilitation of that road. It's going to be turned into a dual carriageway. The road is a 9-meter stretch. So from the airport up to the Kenneth Kaunda roundabout. That is all earmarked for upgrading to bituminous. It will be a dual carriageway. So that is what we are going to work on under the L400 Phase 3.
Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwenga Mwinga.
Meanwhile, Northwestern Province Council of Elders is calling on government to embark on the construction and rehabilitation of roads in the province under the Link Zambia 8000, which was launched by late President Michael Sata in 2012. The Council of Elders Secretary Kenneth Kapata told Camnet News that there is need for the Patriotic Front government to honor the late president by fulfilling some of the projects he started, such as the Link 8000 in Northwestern Province. Mr. Kapata named the Solwezi Mushindano Road, Mwenilunga Manyinga Road, which is 216 kilometers, Mwenilunga Jimbe, which is 75 kilometers, Katsempa Kaoma Road, a stretch of 218 kilometers, among other roads which are under the project. The Northwestern Province Council of Elders has suggested that government goes into private-public partnership PPP to work on the Kasempa Kaoma Road, which the mines use.
Yes, we are very grateful indeed that the late President Michael Sata made pronouncements of 8,000 on the road network, and we as a province benefited from that pronouncement. We had Solwezi Mushindamo Mwenunga Jimbe, Mwenunga Manyinga, Kasempa, Mumbwa, Kasempa, Kaoma, Kasempa, Kalarushi. So those roads, we expect that they be worked on. We're thankful that there are contractors already on Solwezi, Mushindamo, Mwenunga Jimbe, they are contractors. We are just making an appeal that these contractors speed up the works on those roads. And the remaining roads, we are appealing to the government to work on them, either making use of the private partnership and or government will just find money to start working on these roads, because we feel that the roads that were pronounced together with the ones we have here in the province, some of them are already complete, and they are working on the roads that did not even receive the pronouncements of the late president.
A member of the former government employees that were retrenched in 1997 has questioned the Ministry of Justice over where the resources released by the Ministry of Finance to pay off retirees has gone. The former civil servant, who chose to remain anonymous for fear of victimization, says many of his colleagues have found themselves in debt after borrowing money from microfinances, commonly known as Kalova, to solve their financial challenges. The retiree is saddened by how the case has not been prioritized by government despite many years passing. We have more in this report.
A senior citizen who claims to be a former government worker and a member of a union belonging to former government workers who frequented the Justice Ministry over unpaid benefits since 1999 bemoans his alleged unpaid dues.
Disappointed, a retiree waits for his money for 20 years, and that money someone is keeping. They don't even give you interest. When you talk of interest, you are just cut. We don't mind. What we want is let the balances be paid. But we want to mention very strongly that the financial regulations states clearly that when the money has stayed for a long time, the interest must be accrued. We want the interest also to be paid. We want all the allowances and the other things given by the courts of law, the High Court.
The senior citizen and a resident within Lusaka, whose identity has been withheld for fear of victimization, says some of his colleagues, including himself, have ended up in huge debt following the promise by Justice Minister given Lubinda early this year that all former government workers would be cleared beginning 8th June 2020.
Announced has caused a lot of death. Why are we saying like that? People, when they heard that a lot of money is coming, they were jubilating. And there are a lot of programs. And they started getting Kalova from other people. And the Kalova is now, has gone up. They can't even pay back. Finally, with the disappointments, we are told that there's no money which is there. Government doesn't know anything. So where are we taking these people now? When they come back now marching, are we going to disturb them?
Efforts to reach the ministry by broadcast time proved futile. Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwinga Mwinga.
National Action for Quality Education in Zambia has painfully declared 2020 as a dead year for non-examination grades. Organization Executive Director Aaron Chansa notes with sadness that the shortage of desks and the surge of COVID-19 cases may not allow non-examination classes to resume classes this year. He notes that currently strict public health guidelines are being promoted, coupled with inadequacies by schools to accommodate more learners in the face of the pandemic. It would be suicidal to reopen schools for more learners other than those already learning in 2020. Mr. Chansa explains that staying away from school for too long may have long-term academic and social consequences on them, hence the need for government through the Ministry of General Education to upscale their online teaching calendar to the non-examination classes. Meanwhile, Mr. Chansa has urged parents who can manage to teach their children from home to play their part so that children are not very affected.
we have come to a very painful conclusion that the year 2020 is a dead year for non-examination classes in Zambia. Painful as it may be, we think that this is the best way to go, because the cases of corona are surging, schools are not capable to receive more learners, and the ministry will do well to allow these learners who are not learning now to proceed to higher grades next year in 2021, and only pick those topics that are important to be taught and give exams, national exams based on those topics, and also begin to intensify teaching and learning through alternative modes so that no one is left behind for now. We also think that parents must help with the situation. Those parents who can read and write should be able to begin to teach their children. Home teaching will be very, very much important now, and be able to help the situation.
Tributes over the death of veteran politician and longest-serving Vice President of Zambia, Grace Zulu, have continued to pour in as the country remembers him for many things. Mr. Zulu, who died on the 16th of August 2020, aged 95, played a key role in Zambia's independence struggles. The National Union of Private and Public Educators of Zambia, NUPEZ, has described Mr. Zulu as a great political leader. NUPEZ General Secretary Nelson Mwale says the late Grace Zulu brought about positive change and development in the education sector. Mr. Mwale says the late Zulu established Chikoka Primary School in Afunta village of Chipata, Eastern Province, thereby calling on the Ministry of General Education to name the school after him. We have more in this report.
The National Union of Public and Private Educators of Zambia, NUPEZ, has joined the rest of the country in mourning Zambia's former United National Independence Party, UNIP, Secretary General Grace Zulu, who passed on 16th August 2020.
As National Union of Public and Private Educators of Zambia, NUPEZ, we want to join the rest of the Zambian citizens in mourning former UNIP Secretary General, Comrade Grace Zulu, for the immense contribution that he made to this nation. Remember that you cannot talk about the liberation struggles that Zambia underwent without mentioning Comrade Grace Zulu as Secretary General of the party that time. And we realized that he worked in different portfolios apart from being Secretary General of the party.
In order to give the late freedom fighter a good send-off, NUPEZ General Secretary Nelson Mwale proposes that a school in the village Mr. Zulu hails from be named after him.
I'm privileged that I come from the same village with him, Mafuta area in Chipata. He comes from Agripa village, and I'm part of the people that come from Chief Mafuta. And so even when our levels of illiteracy were so high in our village, he managed to convince government to bring a school called Chikoka Primary School right in his village. And so you find the levels of literacy improved after that school was built, because there was no school the whole area had. And so we are so grateful that he brought that school. And we are appealing to the government of the Republic of Zambia through Ministry of General Education that can the school be renamed from Chikoka Primary School to Grace Zulu Primary School, because it's the only way that we are going to honor Comrade Grace Zulu.
Mr. Mwale has since called on the nation to also mourn Mr. Zulu in peace. Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwenga Mwenga.
You are watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. We take our second set of commercials. Do stay tuned as we have international and sports news. Don't go away.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. In international news, tear gas and stun grenades have been fired at protesters in Sudan's capital on the first anniversary of a landmark power sharing deal. Demonstrators say the transition to democracy has been too slow following the overthrow of long-term leader Omar al-Bashir. In other news, parts of Argentina's capital have been brought to a standstill by protesters calling for an end to months of coronavirus restrictions. The Latin American nation has been under lockdown for more than 150 days, but still has one of the highest rates of infection in the world. Al Jazeera has more in these stories.
Venting their frustration on the first anniversary of the signing of Sudan's power-sharing agreement. But a planned 3.5-hour rally in Khartoum was cut short when police fired stun grenades and tear gas. Many people had hoped the deal, which followed months of political turmoil and protester killings, would be a new start for the country. But they say they've not seen enough change.
When we started the revolution, it was because of the economy, and when the first martyr fell, the goal became justice for those who had lost their lives in this revolution. We promised to hold those who killed civilians to account. That main demand is not yet met. There can be no moving forward if the main demand of those who took to the street is not achieved.
His friend says the power-sharing agreement between military and civilian leaders is flawed.
The political parties did not have a long-term vision. They were in a rush to reach a deal. They lacked a national spirit and went into negotiations based on the interests of their own respective parties and leaders. Now it's difficult for them to lead in the interest of the people at heart.
The deal, known as the Constitutional Declaration, came after months of negotiations following the overthrow of President Omar al-Bashir. The Forces of Freedom and Change, which led anti-government protests, demanded a say on governance, and ended up with a plan for the military to lead for the first 21 months and a civilian for the remaining 18 months until elections. Also included were more freedoms, and ending conflicts such as in Darfur was made a priority. The transitional government admits that change is slow, but says it takes time and there are challenges. There's still 27 months to go in the transitional period before elections are due, but many of the provisions of the power-sharing agreements are yet to be implemented. A peace deal is yet to be signed, and there is still no legislative assembly that is supposed to oversee the transitional government. The military has ruled Sudan for more than 50 of the 64 years of independence. Some analysts say it's up to the international community to ensure the transition to democracy is completed.
The Constitution Declaration was a settlement to reach a political stability in this country.
Every August 17th, Argentines commemorate the death of their national independence hero, José de San Martín.
But this year, thousands used the national holiday to protest against the government of Alberto Fernández.
We are against abuses of power. We want three powers: the judiciary, the executive and the legislature. They want to use this crisis for their own benefit.
Argentina's government imposed a lockdown in March to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And even though they have managed to slow down the infection rate in the country, the lockdown has had a dramatic impact on the economy.
There's protests like this one not only in Buenos Aires but in many cities across the country. People honking their car horns and carrying Argentina's flag. The government imposed a lockdown almost 5 months ago, and people here say that the government is using COVID-19 as an excuse to curtail their individual freedoms.
People say they're also worried about attempts by the government to reform the justice system and expropriate a private agricultural company, although that plan was later dismissed. Angélica came with her family to the center of Buenos Aires because she says it's important to stand up for her rights.
We are living in lockdown and we are tired and the peak never arrives. I'm against attempts to reform the judiciary and we have to claim our rights, defend our rights on the street. The only thing we have left is to protest.
President Alberto Fernández imposed a lockdown in March, saying he prioritized saving lives over the economy. His measures were celebrated for a while, but discontent has been on the rise in recent weeks.
We have to live in a unique time, a period where we're under siege by a pandemic that is infecting us and killing us, and that we have to rebuild a country that was devastated economically by debt. Argentines are debating once again which is the way where we can talk to each other and build a common ground, take decisions that we all agree on, and it's difficult when you have the foolishness of others in front.
In spite of the threat of COVID-19, thousands decided to challenge the government on Monday. They say lack of freedom is a bigger threat than disease. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
We now take a look at sports news. Barcelona have sacked manager Setien 3 days after his side humiliating 8-2 defeat by Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Netherlands manager Ronald Koeman, who played for the Carleton Giants between 1989 and 1995, is set to replace Setien at the Nou Camp. Former Real Betis manager Setien, 61, was appointed in January and took charge for just 25 matches. Barca finished second in La Liga this season, 5 points behind Real Madrid. A new coach will be announced in the coming days, said the club. We monitor Talk Football.
La realidad es que ahora estamos todos tremendamente frustrados. Esto evidentemente para la afición es tremendamente doloroso. Para nosotros somos profesionales y evidentemente también nos duele muchísimo. Hay que encajarlo y asimilarlo, ¿no? Esto ya es inevitable y nada, hay que pensar siempre que el futuro pues será mejor, ¿no? Y que hay que recuperar esta imagen que hemos transmitido hoy, sobre todo de cara pensando ya en el futuro, ¿no?
It is, of course, Ronald Koeman who once again has appeared as the leading man to take over as the Barcelona coach, which for us Barca fans, it's not exactly something new. We've heard Koeman linked to Barca for several years now, to be perfectly honest. No less indeed than back in January, of course. Well, like I say, we had that vacancy, we were looking around for an option, and it was interesting because the board approached Koeman after Xavi as their second choice at the time, and back then, Koeman rejected Barcelona's approach because of course he is still in charge of the Netherlands national team. He still hasn't competed there in the Euros. It didn't happen this summer. It's going to happen there in the summer of 2021. And he still does seem as though he wants to be the man to lead his country into that tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see if Barca do approach Koeman. Will he change his mind? I'm not really sure whether it would make a lot of sense for him to actually there pack in his job with his country and actually join Barcelona for what could be just one season. Because obviously at the end of this, a new board is going to come in, and it's probably likely that he'd actually end up sacked, in a very similar way to sort of Quique Setien. And I think right now it is so difficult. And I would actually say any coach coming in, they would have to be pretty mad, because Barcelona right now are in an absolute mess.
That sports item brings us to the end of the news. But before we go, a look at the headlines once again. A government U-turns on 750 COVID-19 fine. President Edgar Lungu mourns Chief Mushima Mubambe Luputa the 14th. Bad airport road network in Lusaka irks motorists. In international news, Sudanese protest a year after power sharing deal with army. And in sports news, Barcelona sack manager after Bayern thrashing. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, coming from the book of Proverbs 16 verse 9, and it reads, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." This has been Camnet TV News, not just another channel. I have been your anchor, Liseli Kanyanga. God bless.